Alright, so in this video we're going to create a health up object. So something to give us health when we collect it. We're going to create an item holder that holds that health object, that when it's destroyed it generates the health object. And then we're going to create a way to spawn these these object holders. Now we're going to be creating several items in the next few videos. Anyway, just follow along. So some of the stuff that's going to be used in this item holder is not going to get used in this video. Alright, so anyway, we're just planning ahead and setting up for the future. So how is this? That's one thing you have to know, is how am I going to use this later on in the development process. Okay, so anyway, let's start with this health item. So create an item, right click, create 2D object sprite, whatever you want to create. I created two squares and put them in the shape of a plus, like, you know, health up, like plus health, I don't know. Anyway, added a rigid body, circle collider, and then I created a script in my items folder called health up item. You could call it health pickup. That's probably a better name for it, but I didn't call it that. So let me just double click on that. So I open up that script, and here it is. This is it. Go ahead and pause it and copy it, and I'll talk about it as you're doing that. So we have a float, health to give, equals to, and then a reference to player health, which we get in the start method, excuse me. Then avoid on trigger enter 2D, collision, just like all the other ones that we've done so far. If collision dot compare tag player, so if it equals player, then health to give equals player health dot max health times 0.25. So that's 1/4 of max health. So, you know, if it's 100, it's going to be 25. If it is 1,000, it's going to be 250, for example. All right, so then we're going to send it through the player health dot receive health as an int. So we're going to put this int in front of it. We're going to put this int in front of it, health to give. So it's going to change this float into an int, because remember, all of our other floats are, all of our other variables are ints inside of the player health script. So let me go over here to player health. So you might not be able to call max health from the player, the health pickup script, because in the other videos we made max health a private serialized int. So in this one we want to get rid of the serialized field and just make it a public int. Alright, and that'll let us call it along with this float. Alright, but that's it for the player health pickup. You go ahead and add that script to the health object that you made in your inspector. Make sure you have a prefab made of this object. Here it is. You know, a lot of times I drag this. This is not going to matter for a prefab, so don't worry about that. It's going to find that as soon as it becomes active in the hierarchy. Okay, so that's the first part of this. The second part is this item holder that we've created. So again, right click, create empty, or create 2D object sprite, any sprite that you want, and then drag that into the prefab folder, because you want prefabs of that, and then right click and create empty and call it item holders, and then place one in there and create a bunch of them. Create as many as you want. I have 10. I think that's all I need. So anyway, in this item holder script, so let's go back to the scripts. We have our items folder. item holder. Let's open that up. Yeah, I created folders to enclose all the stuff to keep everything nice and organized. So it depends on the team that you're working on, whether or not what way you're gonna organize everything. If it is just myself, then whatever I feel like is the best way to do it. However I can find it, but try to make sure you keep everything organized in folders. So anyway, this is the item holder, serialized field, game object array. So these two square brackets are make this an array. It's not the same as a list. Lists are different. We may make a list. I don't know if we're going to make a list during this tutorial or not. We're going to call this items to spawn. We're going to set this game object to false in the start method. On trigger enter 2D method, if it is player projectile, then we are going to call this random roll method that I created. Alright, so you go ahead and create a random roll random method. The first thing you're going to put in here is an int random number, and this is like a die, with 0 to 100 numbers on it. Really, it's only 0 to 99 because it will never call this 100. So pretty much, if it's we have a few if statements. So if it is greater or equal to 40, if random number is greater or equal to 40, we're going to call the first item in that array. If the item is not equal to null, that means if there is something in that part of the spot in the array, that's what we're going to call, and that's what we're going to instantiate. If it is greater or less than 20, or greater or equal to 20, and less than 40, if the item in spot number 2, so arrays are off by 1 count. So anyway, if it is in spot number 2, we're going to instantiate that, and we're just going to keep going down the line. If it's random number, if it's 10, less than 20, number 3, we're going to instantiate number 3. If it is greater or equal to 5 and less than 10, we're going to instantiate number 3. So these are the rarer items. This is a weighted table a little bit. This is a weighted table. So we're trying to pretty much only call these things if this dice roll is between certain numbers, and the smaller the number, the smaller the range, the more rare the item's going to be. And so 0 to 5, and you can split this up to where it has even a smaller percentage chance of coming up. I think 0 to 5, I think having these two equal are fine. There's going to be a few more items, like there's going to be a money item, and then a money bag item, and probably another couple more items. So a money bag item, like a large sum of money item, and a couple more that are going to be rarer and rarer. Then once all this is called, we're going to set the game object to false. So basically, once you shoot it, it's going to instantiate some object, and it's going to go to false. So I'm going to scroll back up and scroll down slowly and let you pause it and copy all that. Alright, so now now that we've got your item holder made, you've attached your script, you have a rigid body on it, box collider that's a trigger. Now we're going to create the item holder, which is on the main camera, just like the item holder spawner. It's on the main camera, just like the enemy spawner. And by the way, I imported Cinemachine, and the way you do that is package manager. Let me drag the package manager over here. Make sure you go to Unity registry and find Cinemachine, and over here it should say install if you don't already have it installed. And then on your CMV cam, you want the player to be drugged into the follow field. That way it will follow your character. Alright, so let's get back to the item holder spawner, excuse me. So this is the same thing pretty much as the enemy spawner, except for, so let me go through it so you see it. We have this array of item holders, and I'm doing this differently than a pool because I only want a limited number anyway, a very limited number, less than 10. You can have more, and you can create a pool just like you did with the enemies if you'd like. You can go back into your enemy pool script and just duplicate everything in there, name it something different like item holder pool, and then create a pool out of that. So you can do that, and then you would call it the same way, except you just change the enemy pool. Let me find my enemy spawner. So instead of calling the get pooled object from tier 1 enemy, you would call it from item holder pool or whatever. And that's the only difference. But I'm not pulling this object just because I don't think it needs to be pulled. I do have this new int in here called item holder to spawn, so that'll put a number inside of this array and tell me which one to spawn. Okay, so set spawn location, all that is the same as enemy health, enemy spawner, excuse me. The only difference is spawn holder here, and in this it's saying if the enemies of spawn number is greater or equal to item holders.length, set it to 0. That way it does not go out of the bounds of the array. You'll get an error for that. So if game manager.minutes, remember we have a static int inside of game manager called minutes. So let me skip over here. There it is, minutes. If it's less than 2, then we're only going to spawn 3 of them. So if item holder to spawn is less than 3, spawn item holder to spawn. And if it is, excuse me, let me back up. So if item holder to spawn is less than 3, and if that item is not active in the hierarchy, basically what this is saying, then spawn that item. Set that item's position to spawn point and set it to active to true, and then reset the spawn point so we don't set another one on top of it. And it'll go through this several times, and sometimes it'll hit and sometimes it won't, so it adds another variable to your to how many are actually being spawned, which I think is nice. So anyway, well, I'll show you how that works in a minute. So in this one, if the minutes are greater or equal to 2, then the minutes are less than 5. So this won't be called unless both of these agree. So it's got to be greater than 2 and less than 5. And then if the spawn number is less than 6, then we're going to spawn the next group of them. And that way we don't have all of them coming at once, giving the player an unfair advantage over the enemies. And then this code is just pretty much repeating from here, just with different numbers. So game management greater than 5, less than 8. It's going to spawn up to 7, because 7 is less than 8. And then if it is greater than 8 minutes, then it's going to spawn all of them. And every time this code runs, it's going to take the items to spawn number up 1 increment, making sure that it does not go over the length of the item holders in the array. Alright, so anyway, I hope that you paused everything to copy all that code. Matter of fact, just so I know that you did, I'm going to go through, you scroll down, you copy it, pause it and copy it. Let's see, let me zoom out here so you can see the rest of this code. Okay. Let's get back over here to Unity. So we've created this item spawner. We drag this onto the item, or you can do it by add component. Okay, so I have my spawn time set to 2. A lot higher than that, then it really starts acting kind of weird. So you might not want it above 2. So let's see. We want to lock this. So come over here into your inspector and go to this lock button. And what is going to happen is that this item holder spawner is going to stay right here in the inspector. We don't have to worry about clicking over and clicking 3 times. So I'm going to go ahead and set this to 0 just so you can see what happens here. So you can take all of your item holders, select them all, and just drag them onto this item holders phrase here, and it will automatically populate your array. You can also just set it for 10 and drag each one in individually, but it's much quicker to just drag them all on at once. Okay, and that is pretty much it. No, it's not it. So we need to make sure that we have, let's go to our projectile and our prefabs. So we need to make sure that, unlock this. If you unlock it, it's gonna, if you don't know that you have it locked, it kind of gets on your nerves. But so we're going to go to our projectile and go to tag, because remember we had to make a player projectile tag. If you haven't done this yet, then you add plus, press the plus button, and it comes up with a new field. I'm not pressing the plus button because it'll come up with a field, and you can always get rid of it. In earlier versions, you haven't always been able to get rid of it. But anyway, so we've made this player projectile tag. It should be the same, spelled the same as this here. If it's not spelled the same, it will not work. So if you're not, if it's not working for you, make sure you go back and make sure it's all spelled the same. We're also going to create 2 layers called items and player projectiles, just so that we have them. And we're going to assign player projectile layer to this beam, and then in our items prefab, we're going to make sure that everything is set to item. That we don't have an items tag, and that's okay. Items, okay. All right, and item holder can be, we can actually set that to enemy, and that would be okay. Yep. Okay, so anyway, we have all that set, and now we can press play. Okay, so here's one of them that has spawned already, so let's go down to it. Alright, and there should be another one spawning any minute now. And I'm going to fast forward this video basically so that you see that all of them spawn. Sometimes it just takes a second for the numbers to match up in the enemy spawner. Oh, there's it. There's the next one. Okay, so let me take some health, some damage here. And then I'm going to go and shoot this one. That one didn't give us anything because it didn't roll the right number to give us anything. So we're going to shoot this one now. Oh, didn't roll the right number to give us anything. Let's see, there's a couple more down here. So you see, as they become inactive, they won't spawn until they become active, inactive. All right, nothing in that one. Jeez. All right, so I'm going to restart the video when I find one, unless there's one in that one. There it is. All right, it gave us health, 25% of our health back. All right, so I'm going to cut the video here and just come back when it reaches 2. Okay, so we're getting ready to reach 2. I have 3 of my items item holder spawned. Any minute now, another one. Any second now, the I don't want to say minute because I don't want you to wait here forever. But any second now, this third one should spawn. So let's see. Alright, the numbers just aren't lining up yet. So, and I'm walking around like a zombie because I have no health. Oh, there it is. So it spawned somewhere. Oh, and all the other ones in that group spawned. So I'm going to wait until 5 minutes, and I'm going to restart the video, and I'll do the same thing. Okay, it's finally close to 5 minutes. So when we hit 5 minutes, this one will be the next one to spawn over here in the corner. Alright, so let's, any second now, this one will go ahead and spawn. So while we're waiting on that, I hit one and it went out. Anyway, while we're waiting on that, I think the next video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a distance from the camera that these guys can be from the spawn point and still be active, because every one of my enemies is pretty much active right now. And in the game that we're emulating, Vampire Survivors, once you get so far away from the camp, once they get so far away from the player, they deactivate so they go back into the pool. Alright, so anyway, these guys have come, have spawned, and I'm not going to wait for the next ones because you guys get it. It works. Anyway, I'm going to make a GitHub repository of this project that you guys can download. I may or may not show you how to do that. I don't know yet. But anyway, as you can see, everything that we've done so far is working, and we're pretty close to getting the core loop of this game done. I think all that's really left is making more projectiles, more items that you can pick up, and then more enemies that will spawn over time, stronger enemies. All right. I think that's it. Anyway, if you like this video, like and subscribe, and please consider following me on, support me on Patreon. Thanks. Have a good one.